Thanks for joining us tonight on another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I am your host for this fabulous little half hour where we are going to talk all things motorsports because there's a lot to go over from the past week. We had a lot of crazy things happening in the world of NASCAR, especially since we had 2 out of the 3 races that were in action this weekend be playoff cutoff races. So lots to discuss in that regard, a lot of things going on. We've got some Formula One news to talk about, some shock news in the world of sports cars as well, some driver news and supercars, and we've got a lawsuit update in the world of NASCAR that you're not going to want to miss. So, before we go ahead and get into all of that, be sure if you like this show to follow me on social media. You can do so by looking up at rpeeters33, that's R-P-E-E-T-E-R-S 33, and then make sure to have that handy-dandy little WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV so you get brand new episodes of the Racing Report each and every week that they are released. And now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on in to the world of Formula One and start off that news segment right here. First of all, Alpine says that it is, quote, a few races away from deciding their 2026 lineup. Now, the team is reportedly focused on, quote, internal options like Jack Doohan or reserve driver Paul Aaron in the event that Franco Colapinto is not retained. However, Colapinto still has the next few races per Alpine to make his case for why he deserves to stay. So we will see what they end up doing there. But it would be very interesting if they signed Jack Doohan, then fired him after 5 races, brought in Colapinto, had Colapinto do the entire rest of the season, then fired Colapinto, and then ironically replaced him again with Jack Doohan. I think that would be crazy, but also not unlike Alpine. So we'll see what happens in the, quote, next few races per Alpine, their statement over the course of this last week. Speaking of someone who's driven for Alpine before but is no longer there, Fernando Alonso says that he will be taking next year, quote, day by day, following speculation that he could retire in the next few years or even at the end of next year. Now, Alonso has said basically that he's happy with where he is right now with the Aston Martin team. He enjoys working for Lawrence Stroll. He enjoys being teammates with Lance Stroll, which I have a hard time believing, but I'm not going to question Alonso in that case, but he does say he's enjoying it, and he's going to evaluate things day by day next year to see what really his future is. He says he's very grateful to have been in the series for as long as he has been, but always looking forward to the future. And, you know, hey, he says if he's having a really, really good season next year, he might go out on top and retire at the end of next year. But that's only if that Alpine car next year, excuse me, not the Alpine car, that Aston Martin car, hopefully he's not an Alpine, poor guy, that would be bad. But if that Aston Martin car does see a sizable increase in performance thanks to Adrian Newey's input, perhaps we could see Fernando Alonso retire at the end of next year, but that's still to be determined. We don't know that at all, and nothing's been announced, nothing's been confirmed. Alonso's just simply thrown it out there that said, hey, well, if things are going really great for me next year, I might go out on top. But if not, hey, who knows? He might still be in the sport, and in 3 years down the line, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. So some news there on Formula One's oldest driver currently in Fernando Alonso. Meanwhile, let's talk about some feeder series news. McLaren has abruptly dropped Alex Dunn from their driver development program last week, saying that they failed to reach an agreement on his future opportunities. So this was not a situation of McLaren firing him. It was more, we couldn't find a place for him. And now, on the heels of that, it's apparently been reported that Red Bull has expressed interest in signing the Irishman, either potentially for another F2 stint, or even, apparently this is the rumor, to partner Max Verstappen next year. Holy cow, that's a head scratcher if I've ever heard one, but I'm leaning more towards that's a very, very far-fetched rumor right now, and I would be more inclined to believe that they might stick him in another season of F2, or maybe even a spot at RB if Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson end up moving around, but again, all of that is still TBD. So these are the things that we're going to be looking at as the Formula One silly season keeps ramping up here over the next couple of weeks, because, again, we are into the final few rounds. Now that we're getting into that the United States, North American swing of things, where we're going to COTA, then to Brazil, then to Mexico, all these places. Or I think it's COTA, Mexico, then Brazil. But either way, lots of things moving around in the world of Formula One, so we'll have to check back and see what's going on there. That is it for that Formula One news, though, this week. Let's go ahead and move on into the world of IndyCar, because we do have a decent amount. Not a lot. It's been a very quiet week in IndyCar, but we do have some news to discuss. And first of all is that there is a test, I believe, scheduled at IMS for this upcoming Monday. I believe that's October 13th. At the IMS road course. And here's what we do know. Here's the drivers that we do know will be participating in that test. Obviously, we talked about last week, Mick Schumacher going out there for Rahal Letterman Lanigan. But now we also know that Dennis Hauger is going to drive for for Dale Coyne. He's going to drive for Dale Coyne. He's got that partnership with Andretti, but he's not racing with Andretti. He's going to be testing for Dale Coyne. Meanwhile, for AJ Foyt Racing, you're going to have Kyle Collette in one of those cars. And I got a little bit ahead of myself there, but in the Andretti car for that test will be Lockie Hughes, who was their second driver in the Indy Next series last year, or I should say this season? Last season? It's too new now. This most recent season. He got a win at the IMS road course, obviously, in case you missed that. So we'll definitely an interesting news there. And then finally, James Rowe is testing for Juncos Hollinger Racing. So that's some of the newer drivers that will be making their debuts in tests, or not debuts, but they will be testing their Indy cars for next year. And then Ed Carpenter Racing is also going to be at the test, but they're just bringing their two drivers, Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen. So no young drivers or potential drivers for them. It looks like they're sticking status quo, sending those two drivers to that test. And then the final piece of IndyCar news to talk about today, before we take our first break of the show, is that Chip Ganassi Racing has announced that it will expand its Indy Next program from 2 cars to 4 cars next year. So get ready to be on the lookout for that. I believe Niels Coolin, who drove for Chip Ganassi Racing in Indy Next last year, already got a test at Mid-Ohio last week for Chip Ganassi Racing in their IndyCar. But as far as how that went, I don't know. There was a lot of carnage at that Mid-Ohio test. So definitely a lot of things to keep in mind there as we go forward. But that is it for the open-wheeled news of the show. But when we come back, we're going to take our first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the enclosed cockpits and the enclosed fenders and whatnot that come with sports car racing, supercars racing, and the world of NASCAR. So all of that's coming up right here on the Racing Report. So don't touch that dial, because we will be right back. And welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Thanks so much for sticking with us through that break. Let's go ahead and get into the world of supercars, because we got a shock retirement announcement over the course of the week. Nick Percat has announced that he will retire from full-time supercars driving at the conclusion of this season. He is expected to continue in a co-driver role, but apparently it's, from what I've understood, he seems kind of sad about this, but also kind of looking towards the future. He's never say never, but for right now, he's going to close that chapter of his life as a full-time supercars driver in an attempt to maybe work on his karting interests that he has been working on the last several years and has been ramping up his participation and involvement in his karting efforts. So with supporting young drivers and whatnot with that. So definitely some sad news for the world of supercars, seeing Nick Percat having to step away. But we should expect to see him in a co-driver role for next year. Just what team that might be is still TBD at this moment. Meanwhile, some more Supercars silly season news. We've got David Reynolds returning to Team 18 for another full-time season beginning next year. That was also announced last week. So that's the news of the Supercars world as we head to Bathurst coming up this weekend. Don't go anywhere for that. We're going to talk about Bathurst. We're going to preview Bathurst coming up here later on in the show. But for now, let's go ahead and shift our focus into the world of sports cars, specifically into the world of the WEC, the World Endurance Championship, because we have a big big breaking news that happened over the course of this week. Porsche announced this week that it is ending its factory hypercar program in the WEC at the end of the season to shift its focus to IMSA and Formula E. So what this means is the Penske Porsche program in the WEC, gonzo. Penske Porsche in IMSA, sticking around. Probably might be even stronger than ever. But as far as those Porsches competing at Le Mans, that is done and over with. It will not be happening as of next year. Now, this was not entirely unprecedented. I believe Porsche had been kicking around that at the very least they were supposed to continue on until 2027, but they seem to have pulled the plug a little bit early and are deciding to go in their separate ways. And let's be honest, this isn't the first time Porsche has pulled the plug on a prototype program in sports car racing, be it IMSA or the World Endurance Championship. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last time either. I would fully expect them to come back at some point in the future. When that will be, I don't know, but it looks like the board decided, based on newfound evidence, that they were going to go ahead and pull the plug on the WEC program and focus their efforts onto IMSA and in the world of Formula E. So that is it for the sports cars news. Just some very big sports cars news, because we do have a big sports car race coming up this weekend in the Petit Le Mans. You won't want to miss that. But before we get to discussing that, we have to turn to the world of NASCAR, where we're going to discuss some of the world news there. And this is the big news. I teased it at the top of the show, so if you're sticking around now, thank you. I appreciate it, because this is the big news that you got to listen to. NASCAR has moved for a settlement conference with 23XI and Front Row Motorsports earlier this week. And after that, in the aftermath of that, despite the fact that 23XI, especially specifically Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, seemed to push back on that, we now know that Judge Kenneth Bell, who's overseeing the trial, or overseeing the case, not trial, case, right now. It's not gone to trial. Still set for a December trial, but maybe not anymore, because Judge Bell ordered the two parties, being NASCAR and 23XI/FRM. I'm counting them as one party, even though they're two entities. It's one party. To participate in that settlement conference on October 21st with mediator Jeffrey Mishkin. So what that means is we could have a settlement in this lawsuit sooner rather than later, but it depends all on how this October 21st conference goes. Whether or not the two sides are able to reach an agreement and see what happens. We had a big update to this story late last week that happened just after actually the show was posted. So unfortunately we weren't able to cover that, but we can cover it now, in that we had a list of a list of the teams that were not suing, basically told the court and the judge why they were nervous about all of this and all of the things that NASCAR has done that is positive for them. Basically, they were signing away and saying, this is why we support NASCAR. This is why we are supporting NASCAR. It was very interesting. We got to see each and every team owner do that. Funny, a lot of people are indeed pointing out to Roger Penske what he wrote and saying how much, just how much success his team has had in the next gen era. And yes, it has, but at the same time, they're the only team that has won in the next gen era, a championship, I should say, in the next gen era. Obviously, Joey Logano won in 2022, Ryan Blaney in 2023, and then Joey Logano again last year. And obviously, Roger Penske was very... And not just Roger Penske. I don't want to just single out Roger Penske here. I also want to say that a lot of the other teams, every other team, Rick Hendrick included, Joe Gibbs, these are all team owners that did basically tell the courts how many good things NASCAR has done for them in the last several years is a way to kind of help NASCAR's argument for all of this. But even then, after getting that, what we know now, it could all end up being moot, especially since we could be heading for a settlement here pretty soon, which is not something I expected about a month or two ago. I did not really expect us to ever see settlement be discussed here in the world of NASCAR, but apparently that is what is being discussed, and that is what has been ordered by Judge Kenneth Bell to have happen by at least October 21st. But again, those are just settlement conferences, so not really indicating that they will settle, but at the very least, we know that NASCAR has reached out an olive branch and said, we're willing to settle, but Hamlin and Michael Jordan are very much more hesitant to do that. So we'll have to see what happens out of this conference coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Also, let's get to some other big news that happened in the world of NASCAR. If you felt a little bit wishy-washy on that last piece of news, you don't really know how to feel, I'm pretty sure you know how to feel on this piece of news, because NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell went on the Dale Jr. Download this week and said that NASCAR will increase its horsepower to 750 at road courses and tracks shorter than 1.5 miles next year. This is huge news because right now they've been running about 550 horsepower, and we've seen just how much that the racing has suffered on road courses and short tracks in NASCAR under the Gen 7 car. So now finally we know that they're going to increase those horsepower, hopefully make the cars a little bit tougher to drive with that increased power, maybe make the cars a little bit unstable, maybe make for some better passing, maybe, who knows. We'll see. Don't know yet. It's a good move. It's a step in the right direction. A lot of drivers, though, who have weighed in on this have always said 900 is the goal. They would prefer 900 if anything. But I think right now getting 750 is a good middle ground, even though it's not necessarily what I think the drivers and some of the fans wanted. It's a good middle ground, and it's a good start, especially given what we've seen from NASCAR and their openness to maybe change and listen to the fans and the drivers a little bit more. Like we talked about, we might see the end of the playoffs. We could. It is entirely possible that we could see the end of the playoff era in NASCAR at the end of this next year. That hasn't been confirmed. It's still likely that the playoffs could remain, just be drastically altered. But also NASCAR has kicked around the idea, according to Steve O'Donnell, that the 36-race championship might be the way to go. And he addressed how people have treated recent champions and how people have been, the overall vibe of how current playoff champions are viewed amongst NASCAR. And actually, Steve O'Donnell said one thing that was very interesting in that he doesn't like people talking about the playoffs after the Daytona 500. That's very interesting, but it is true. It is a true thing. If you win the Daytona 500, regardless of how the rest of your season is, you've got now 25 races to just log laps and learn and get better and try and focus in on those last 10 races. That could be something that we maybe see coming to an end next year. But again, we don't know that. The good news is what we do know is that we will get an increase in horsepower on road courses and tracks under 1.5 miles next year, which I wonder if that would apply to Nashville. It should, theoretically, right? Because Nashville is 1.3 miles, technically. So I would think it would maybe apply to Nashville. That might make for a very interesting race coming up here next June, I believe that's when that's supposed to be. So, interesting news in the world of NASCAR there. But let's talk about some silly season news and / driver news. Big news today. On the heels of his wedding, Harrison Burton has announced that he will leave AM racing at the conclusion of the 2025 season and will announce his 2026 plans at a later date. We don't know where he's going, obviously, but we do know that the AM Racing Harrison Burton relationship will end after just one season. AM Racing, though, was very thankful for Harrison for elevating that team. He did get them into the playoffs this season, even though he was eliminated this weekend. Still a big deal considering where the team was just a year ago or even 2 years ago. Very, very big news in the world of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, but definitely curious to see where Harrison Burton lands for next year. Now, finally, before we take our our last break of the show, Catherine Legge is returning to NASCAR coming up this weekend at Las Vegas. She'll drive the Live Fast race, Motorsports number 78 Chevrolet, coming up this weekend at Las Vegas. So good to see Catherine back behind the wheel. Hopefully it's another good race like she's had the last couple of races, but ultimately we'll just see. It is a Live Fast car, so I'm not going to expect anything higher than 20th, but 20th would still be a pretty good run for that team. So that's the news and notes in the world of NASCAR. Let's go ahead and take our final break of the show. And when we come back, we're going to discuss all the crazy happenings that happened this weekend at the Roval and in Singapore. And then we're going to get you caught up and get you ready on everything that's coming up this weekend in the world of racing, because we've got a lot to get to. It's going to be fun. A lot of big races this weekend that you're not going to want to miss. So do not go anywhere, because you are watching The Racing Report. And welcome back to the Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. Let's go ahead and recap the races that happened this weekend across the world of motorsports. Boy, howdy, do we have some crazy races over there on the Charlotte Roval, which, if you listen to my podcast this week, you'll hear my final word. You can listen to that at Robin Roller, spelled just as it sounds. That's ROBANDROLLER. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. Scroll to the very end, listen to my final word. I have some feelings about how people feel about the Roval. I personally love the Roval, and I thought we got some very fun and entertaining races this weekend, as we've gotten since we started going to this racetrack. During the 2018 season. I still like it. I still think it's unique. Do I prefer the original iteration of it? Yes, of course. But this new configuration is still proving to have put on some fairly decent races, and we saw that this weekend. Obviously, in the Cup Series, it was another SVG domination show, which I think we've come to expect on road courses. This is just what's going to happen. This is what we're going to have to expect every time the Cup Series goes to a road course, is that Shane Van Gisbergen will more likely than not win these races. You just have to give it up for him for just being that good. And even Denny Hamlin talking about it on his podcast, saying he's never seen a driver better than Shane Van Gisbergen. We probably never will. It probably won't happen until another Supercars driver comes over to NASCAR and wants to run full-time, that we even see that type of thing even happening. But SVG getting it done, and it wasn't necessarily a cakewalk, but it kind of was at the same time. He still had a great battle there towards the end with Kyle Larson beating and banging on each other. That was a lot of fun to watch, but ultimately the two raced each other with a lot of respect, which was also really nice to watch, I thought. Just overall a great race weekend for NASCAR. But let's talk about the playoff implications that came with that. Obviously, it was a cutoff race in the round of 12, so now we've got the round of 8 coming up here to decide with 3 more races left before we decide who's going to race for a championship at Phoenix. The 4 drivers that were eliminated, obviously Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Austin Cindric. Unfortunately, though, for all of those drivers, I think all of those drivers didn't really think this was going to happen. I think, especially for Bubba and Tyler Reddick, probably were thinking, man, surely we've got a shot at advancing further. But obviously what happened to Bubba last weekend at Kansas, when Denny Hamlin drove him up into the wall and allowed Chase Elliott to come in and steal that victory, he just didn't have enough points. Just didn't have enough points at the end of the day and wasn't able to move on and advance, which was very frustrating. But, of course, the craziest thing that everybody's talking about is Ross Chastain doing it again. It seems like every time Ross Chastain is in a position where he must advance in the playoffs, he does things that I don't think anybody would ever contemplate. But he did it. He went into the last corner. He had to pass Denny Hamlin, overshot it, failed the brakes, got into Hamlin, spun around, threw that thing into reverse and tried to cross the finish line backwards, but unfortunately finished just behind Joey Logano, who passed him after he spun out. Logano advances into the round of 8. Chastain is out. Denny Hamlin said after the race, hey, if I had known that Chastain was in racing for a position, racing in points, they had just needed to have that point, I wouldn't have passed him. Now, NASCAR says they're talking to teams about race manipulation. Would that have been race manipulation? I don't know. There's another thing you can listen to on my podcast. I'm not trying to tease that too much, but I do want to let you guys know, if you want to hear more on that is an option out there. But in general, just overall, a very crazy race there in the world of NASCAR, especially the Roval, I feel like, again, always delivers in drama and in intensity, and I think it would still do that even next year in the hypothetical elimination of the playoffs. I still think it would be a very interesting stop as we get closer and closer to the finish of the season. But that being said, here are the drivers that are advancing into the round of 8. I have them right in front of me here. And if I pull them up, obviously Denny Hamlin is seated first, followed by Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Chase Briscoe. Those are our 8 drivers. And Joey Logano, of course. I hadn't scrolled down all the way. And Joey Logano all the way. Those will be the drivers that will be racing the next 3 races to see if they can make it in the championship 4. Meanwhile, in the Xfinity Series, equally crazy stuff. Connor Zilisch getting the win there. He has scored his 10th straight, his 10th career Xfinity Series race victory this season, which is an incredible feat. He has just gone on this absolute tear the last several weeks, basically ever since he came back from his injury at Talladega. The dude's been unstoppable, and even another injury at Watkins Glen could not stop him there, because even though he started the race, Parker Kligerman came in and won the race at Daytona. He still keeps winning. I don't think he'll stop winning. But he won his 10th Xfinity Series race of the season this weekend at the Roval. How much more can he get? Can he keep going? I'm curious. And then let's talk about the drivers that are eliminated from the playoffs. Nick Sanchez, Austin Hill, Harrison Burton, Sammy Smith, all eliminated from the playoffs. They will not move on into the championship, into the round of 8. But what is interesting about that is Austin Hill's elimination, because here's the fun part. Austin Hill's penalty for wrecking Eric Almirola did indeed take away any advantage that he had in the playoffs already. And apparently, from what I understand, he missed out by 21 points, which is the amount of points that he lost by wrecking Eric Almirola at Indianapolis. Crazy. But Austin Hill will not compete for a championship this week, in the next couple of weeks coming up here at Phoenix. Now let's talk about the Truck Series real quick. What a race that was. If you missed it, I don't blame you. It was about 3 o'clock on a Friday. Not exactly the best time for most people to be watching a race. Most people are still at work. I was still at work. But hey, we found a way. We found a way to watch it. And just from the start, crazy things happening. Lane Riggs' contact with Corey Heim both put him into the wall to start the race on the first lap, first turn. Corey Heim, though, is not one to be denied. He came all the way back from the back of the field, repaired the truck, came back and got a win. Not only was that his 10th win of the Truck Series season, so him and Connor Zilic have the exact same amount of wins in their respective series this year, but for Corey Heim, he broke Greg Biffle's single-season win record in the Truck Series that has stood since before he was born, just about, which is an insane feat to accomplish. Just goes to show just how good of a season Corey Heim has had, and just how good of a driver he has proven himself to be, and how much he has matured and grown over the course of the last several years. But no playoffs at stake there for the Truck Series. They still have 2 races to go, I believe. Yes, they do. So they've got Talladega and then Martinsville. Talladega's coming up in 2 weeks' time, and then they'll go to Martinsville. And then after Martinsville, that'll determine their championship for it. But we do know Corey Heim's going to race for a championship, and I think he should probably get it, all things considered. And if he doesn't, I think the internet's going to break. So just be prepared for that. In case he doesn't, the internet's going to break. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the races that are coming up this weekend after I talk about the Formula One Singapore Grand Prix, because, boy, I almost forgot about it. That was an interesting race, to say the least. George Russell getting the victory there ahead of Max Verstappen, and it looks like, man, Max Verstappen having the last couple of races, he's mounted a charge. I'm looking at the driver standings right now. Oscar Piastri leads. He's got 336 points. He's behind Lando Norris. Norris has got 314. Now, McLaren locked up the Constructors' Championship this past weekend at Singapore, but the Drivers' Championship is still open. Why do I say that? Because Max Verstappen has 273 points, which is really not that far off second. Getting Piastri might be a little bit difficult, but making a real charge at Lando could be on the horizon for Max Verstappen. It seems like this Red Bull team is starting to have a second half resurgence, and a lot of people are speculating that could potentially Max Verstappen mount a second charge at the Drivers' Championship. I don't know if I'm going to go that far yet, but if he keeps racking off race victories and podiums the way he's been doing it, and if McLaren continues to shoot themselves in the foot with weird, strange team orders and whatever the heck they're doing to Piastri, I'm not going to put it out of the realm of possibility. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens there coming up. We do have a couple of weeks before the United States Grand Prix has their lights go out. I believe that's coming up here on October 19th. Now let's take a look at some of the races that are indeed this weekend. Obviously, we've got NASCAR Cup and Xfinity out in Las Vegas this weekend. We've also got the Bathurst 1000, the great race in the Supercars. That's going to be a great, you've got to tune into that. If you don't have an opportunity to tune that, please find a way. So it looks like right now, from what I understand, SuperView is still available to subscribers on YouTube. This is regular YouTube. All you have to do is go to the Supercars YouTube channel, and there should be a way there for you can subscribe to SuperView that way. I believe it's only $7 a month, which if you're only going to watch Bathurst, then it's not the worst case. But if you have cable and you have Racer Network, I believe that the race should be broadcast live flag to flag on Racer Network, albeit with commercials. So just be aware of that. But the Bathurst 1000, always one of the best races in the history of supercars. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But that's not all. You've got a Super Formula doubleheader in Fuji in case you need some open wheel racing to get your fix coming up this weekend. You got two opportunities if you're a night owl to watch some racing over in Japan. And then, of course, who could forget one of the crown jewels of all North American sports car racing? The Petit Le Mans is this weekend at Road Atlanta. Great event, always. We're going to find out who's going to wrap up the IMSA Sports Car Championship coming up this weekend after the Petit Le Mans. Always a great event there. But that is it for this week's episode. Thank you again so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Be sure, again, if you like the show, go ahead and follow me on social media. You can do so by looking up at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS 33. And then make sure you have that handy-dandy little WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV to get brand new episodes each and every week that they're released. So for WTHR Plus, my name is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report. We'll see you next week.